Mellow greetings, Lenina Huxley.
Mellow greetings, Lenina Huxley.
Today we're going to talk about a knife that I love and have loved for a long, long time, but have been afraid to talk about because I'm going to be mean to it and that makes me a little sad. Stick around. Here it is, the Curtis Large F3. Specifically, this one is I guess a Wharncliffe or a sheep's foot. I'd call this a sheep's foot. The Large F3 flipper model. Some of these are non-flipper. This one is the flipper. And it's also got this recess in the blade where you can reverse flick it if you want to. These things have been around for a long time. I've had a picture of this thing saved in my Google Drive photos for a really long time. I wanted one of these things. This was probably my first Grail knife, maybe this or a Sebenza 21. I don't remember which one came first, but I've wanted one for a long time. And I never got one until this year, you know. I finally snagged one. I found a used one. I paid like $450 for this on Arizona Custom Knives, but these things are around. You can get these. He sells them on his Instagram all the time. The fresh ones right off the line. He'll offer them up, usually for pretty good prices on Instagram. You can get them at like DLT, Smoky Mountain Knife Works, any of those places. You know, the big knife places usually have got these things in stock. There's no real shortage of them. He's a one-man operation as far as I understand, but he kind of cranks these things out. And that shows a little bit, honestly. There's some attention to detail that you don't see here that you might see in another knife of this kind of price range. Depending on the size you get, these are from like $500 to $700. So they're not cheap knives, but they are American made, and I would say this is fair to call a custom knife. This is Curtis Custom Knives, but I would agree this is a custom knife. There's a lot more handwork and hand fitting and finishing in this knife than there is in a lot of other knives these days. But along with that comes some quirks, so we're going to talk about that too. And I'll show you some stuff on the inside as well. Let's go over to the bench for a little uppy-closey time. Alright, here's the box. Nothing too fancy, but it is a nice custom printed box. Logo on it, all colored. Seen a lot worse. Hender's plain box with stickers on it. That's fine. Sticker here showing what you got: F3 large Warney flipper, titanium, frag milled, stonewash, root beer finish, magna cut two-tone blasted design, and hardware titanium blue. I don't think my hardware is blue. Maybe somebody changed that. Or maybe that was a mistake. I don't know. Original price $700. And inside the box you got a certificate of authenticity here. And then a really nice zippered pouch that comes with a patch. But I stuck that on my bag. I carry that all the time. Like I said, I'm kind of a fanboy. I've loved Curtis's designs for well over a decade at this point. This was my original Grail knife, maybe right behind the Chris Reeve, but these were a little more expensive than a Chris Reeve. So, and then you got the knife. And let's just get this out of the way early. A little size comparison. It is a big knife, as you can see. She is a thick boy, big old boy, long boy, much bigger than a Mac 2, a bit bigger than a large Inkosi or an Umnumzan or a Sebenza, and bigger than a PM2. Yeah, it's the biggest one on the table, pretty clearly, being 8 3/4 inches long versus 8 1/4, so it's like a ½ inch longer, maybe just shy of 8 3/4, like a ½ inch longer than a large Inkosi or a large Sebenza. Whew. I put skiffs in this Mac 2 recently. It is
slicker than the snot on a doorknob.
This thing's dangerous. As I said in the intro, I have been kind of hesitant to talk about this because it's a hero of mine. Never meet your heroes. You know, back in 2012 or so, when I first started paying attention to these like really high-end knives, this was like the first one that I saw and like immediately fell in love with. You know those knives you just see and it's like getting punched in the gut and you fall in love immediately and then you want them for years and you never stop thinking about them. I still have a photo that I found in my Google Photos from like 2012 or so of one of these knives, a brown one even, that I've been lusting over for at least that long. So yeah, this has got a special place in my heart, and I forgive a lot of flaws for it, and I keep it in my collection because I mean it's been in my mind for so long that I don't really want to get rid of it. You know, it's not that big a deal. Everything about it is solid enough. It's got its issues, but it's fine. It's a perfectly functional tool. Really nice belly on this blade. Comes with a very sharp edge, and I've sharpened this since. Nice 20 degree edge. These are all hand ground blades. That's another cool thing about Curtis. If that's something that's special to you, there's a lot of hand work in these knives. He calls them Curtis custom knives, and I think that's fair. There's a lot more hand work in these than there is in a lot of other knives these days that people call customs. And really, that's where a lot of its flaws come from, is the fact that it's handmade. It's so, to a large extent, handmade. There's a lot of hand grinding you can see. It looks like this was hand filed, maybe this jimping. It's not quite even. You just look at this top one here, it's a little slanted, a little wonky. The back spacer, they're kind of tooth shaped. I'll tear this apart later and I'll get a closer look at this stuff, and it's not quite ground even there. The blade has this cool little two-tony acid etched finish thing that's kind of not perfect. It had a little splotchy spot up here I've rubbed it with an eraser and I've got it pretty evened out, but yeah, it wasn't perfect. There's a little bit of stretch marky stuff going on here around the plunge grind, but that's, not a big deal. And there's some internal sloppiness also, but again, I'll tear this apart in a minute and I'll show you some of that. But really, I mean, it's just an old knife. The thing feels old. It looks old. It mechanically is old. It's a classic knife. Where the Hinderer and the Chris Reeves have moved on, this thing has kind of kept chugging to a large extent. There's not a lot about it that's all that different, I don't believe, from how they were making them a decade ago, other than better steel and stuff now. But it's got that same big pivot design. It's been on. Were they originally on bearings or were they on washers? I honestly don't know that. I'll look that up. Maybe I can find out and I'll put it in here in the text. Pivot is a big calling card of these. It acts as your over travel stop. It's captive, one of them or the other. There's a pin in there. They're both milled for a pinhole, and the pin is in there and it can slide. It's not long enough to engage both because then it would be locked and you wouldn't be able to open it, but it'll be on one or the other and it doesn't matter which. You can set either one of these to be your captive pivot and then the other one will turn out. Some people don't like this hole in the blade here. I think this is really sick. I think that looks really cool. It takes some getting used to flick it. You're not going to be thumb flicking it very easily, but you can do it. It works really well for reverse flicking if you got big long fingers. I've handed this to some friends and they don't seem to be able to do it, so I don't know, maybe my hand's a freak, I don't know, but I have no trouble at all reverse flicking this. And it flips nicely. The flipper is way more comfortable than a Hinderer, which is the one a lot of people compare these to. I never did pull out a Hinderer. I actually have one sitting here. I don't know why I didn't put it out for the comparison. And this is modified. This has got a aftermarket titanium scale on it. Hey, look, it's even a sheep's foot. Twinsies. Yeah, this is bigger. This is like the size of an XM24. This is more the size of a medium Curtis knife. This is the large, obviously, as the title says. So it is bigger. It's like an XM24 size knife. But the flipper tab on a Hinderer is garbage. And I think even Rick Hinderer probably knows that. It's just the way it is. It's the design of the knife and they've left it. I guess the point is it acts as a finger guard. I'm getting off topic. This is not about Hinderer, this is about the Curtis. It's comfortable in the hand. The clip sits kind of in the middle of the hand there. You don't really feel it that much, it's fine. Big grooves here for your fingers, but it doesn't feel like it forces you into any awkward position. It just goes in your hand fine. The jimping works good if you care about that. Maybe even a little aggressive for some people, but it doesn't really bother me. I'm not a stickler for jimping. You've got a big choil here that allows you to sharpen easily and choke up, but you got to be careful because you're going to be up against that sharpened edge. So I'm not much of a chokey uppy person. As I've said before, hands go on handles, not blades. Sometimes. That's actually not even true, is it? Some of these knife designs these days have such big cutouts that they intend you to grab them there, and if you don't, a bunch of shit gets stuck in there when you're trying to cut. So yeah, you know, stick to the front of your index finger, you'll be fine here. I don't know why you'd want to though. I mean, you could do this. This is really not the knife for detailed work. This thing's huge. This is a pocket sword. Really good lock bar access. It's cut away nicely, and they've beveled it here, which is a style I really like. That's what you see on like a lot of knives that I really like Herman. Jesus, I can't believe I forgot the name Herman. Herman does this on the Vespertilio. It's cut away nicely like that, and then they bevel the lock bar, and I really, really like that. But Herman gives you that bevel, and Curtis gives you that bevel, and some others do as well, but this to me is the ideal setup. I like that bevel. It helps me grab it. And I like having a cutaway. Some people don't like it, they think it's ugly, but I'd really rather the front show scale be cut back so I can get to the lock bar easier. Nothing drives me crazier than having a style of knife lock that I have to jam my thumb into, just mush it in and move it over sideways. I hate that. I want to be able to stab it from the side at an angle and drop it. The only complaint I have about this lock bar is there's no lock bar insert, so you're going to get some lock sticks sometimes, and these are known to have some lock rock problems also. Which this one has, a little bit, if you really tweak on it. If you just move it a little bit, there's no movement. But if you give it a little force, it will lock rock a little bit. You'll feel it clicking and clacking in there. It's not audibly making noise, but you can feel a wiggle if you put some pressure in it. But I think I can fix that. I'm going to tear that apart and see if I can fix that. And here's another thing. The clip looks a little rough. It's got a lot of raw edges where it was water jetted out and just not finished. I mean, this really should have had some hand finishing, I think. I don't know how hard that would be to get in there and clean up. Blast it maybe bead blast it, that might do it, and then throw it in a tumbler. I don't know, maybe he did that, but it's sure got a lot of rough edges. It just looks unfinished. They didn't take the corners down at all, those are pretty sharp. The screw heads stick out proud of the scales a little bit. They're not recessed down in there, I mean they pretty clearly stick up. Which is not the prettiest thing in the world. But it's, I mean, again, the whole thing is a little crude. It all feels handmade. It's a little crude and handmade feeling. And that's kind of cool, in a way. But it's going to drive some people crazy also. But you just gotta know what you're getting into if you get one of these. It feels handmade. A lot of water jetted parts that aren't polished up afterwards because he's trying to keep his costs down. It definitely feels like a handmade custom knife. And we romanticize that a bit, but really a production knife is the best knife in the world. It's just the way it is. A machine will always make a better knife than you. A fixed angle sharpener will always sharpen a more perfect edge than you can with free hand, even if you're a master. We will just never be as good as machines at these kind of things. The precision is just not possible. So a custom knife is a beautiful thing. A nice handmade knife is a beautiful thing. But if you want perfection, you need to go with a computerized, CAD designed, CNC milled product. And while there is some of that here, you can tell that there's been a lot of human touch involved. And again, that's kind of a beautiful thing, as Nick Shabazz would say. But you take the good with the bad. That just is what it is. If you want one of these knives, you're going to have to deal with a little bit of quirkiness here and there. And if you're good at working on your own knives, there's nothing really that's going to go wrong with these that you can't deal with and iron out yourself. And he has a really good warranty. But I do want to look at a couple of things on the inside of this, so I'm going to tear it apart real quick. Alright, through the magic of editing, 1, 2, 3. Okay, I have kind of a lot going on the workbench right now, so I beg your pardon there, but I really wanted to show you the inside of this knife while I was talking about it. This looks pretty nice. They've got it milled out. It's not a very deep milling, but the scales aren't super thick anyway, but I mean, they could have probably gone a little deeper than that, but they are milled for weight relief. I had a problem with this. The top pocket clip screw is used for assembly. It goes through the backspacer and holds the knife together. The bottom one's not, it just holds the clip. So it's very, very thin. All it's got to screw into is the scale. And the one that it came with was short, and it was pretty much flush, but it was like stripping out. I mean, it would just barely tight. A little T6 screw that has this much to thread into, that is just asking for trouble. So I ended up putting a little bit longer one in, and it pokes out a little bit, but it holds securely. I was able to tighten it down. It didn't strip or anything, so I mean, that's just something I have to live with there on that. No lock bar inserts, carbidized. I've had problems with that. I talked about that over on the tabletop already. It does come with what appear to be skiff bearings, which is nice. I love skiffs, I have no complaints there. This is how the pivot works. This side is your over travel stop. It's so big that it covers the lock bar, acts as your over travel stop. And then they have pinholes here, because this pin goes through both scales and engages with a little notch in the pivot head right here. And this is what makes your pivot captive. So that's kind of a neat system. This is kind of the calling card of the F3 big pivot head. It looks, I guess, like a crosshair. He's a pretty big firearm enthusiast, I believe, and I think this is kind of what he was going for. There's like a crosshair. You may or may not like that. And then again, he's got the same thing going on the clip. Spacers here, threaded standoffs that the back spacer goes around. And then you can get a better look at this here. I'm really unsure if this is going to focus and show what I'm talking about, but you can kind of see that thing's not even. This grind line is kind of wonky, and then here it's not even either. See that? It's kind of slanted, and then the teeth are kind of slanted, bigger on the right, smaller on the left. tube shaped, all of them. So everything in this knife is kind of like that. It's just a little bit off, a little bit handmade. The whole thing feels a little crude and handmade, and that's good and bad. You know, it feels handmade, where a lot of knives feel like they just came right off a CNC machine and there's no imperfections whatsoever. This one has imperfections, but it has maybe too many. But it definitely feels handmade, where a lot of other ones don't. Like, he hand grinds all his blades, that's pretty cool. I don't really get a kick out of that. You know, it doesn't do anything for me. I would just assume have it milled on a machine, because I'm not really in it for the, you know, the tightrope walking. I did everything by hand, impressive show. I'm in it for the best knife I can get, and that these days is a CNC machined knife, and that's fine with me, to be honest with you. I don't know if the lock geometry is weird or what, but these knives are notorious for having lock rock, and this one is no exception. If you just wiggle it a little bit, you get nothing, but if you really crank on it, which is unfair really, but if you put some force in it, you will get lock rock, but you also get lock stick. So I get lock stick and lock rock at the same time, and that's kind of shitty. They really should be using a lock bar insert here. I mean, this whole knife is just kind of a dinosaur. Here's another problem with it. I mean, I feel bad. I'm mean to this thing because this was one of the first knives I really, really wanted, so I kind of feel bad tearing it apart, but... Okay, let me just show you this. Another problem, it runs on titanium directly with no washer, so you're going to wear a groove there. The fit of the blade around the pivot is one of the looser ones I've seen. I mean, that is a lot of play. Just tons and tons of play. That hole is oversized for that pivot quite a bit. I'd like to see that be a lot tighter. Just make the hole in the blade a little smaller, or make the pivot a little bigger, I guess. Would probably be easier just to make the blade hole a little smaller. But yeah, that's about all it's got going on the inside. I just wanted to get a look at that disassembled real quick. Okay, I thought I would take a chance here and tear this apart and see if I could fix that lock rock. And I just I tore it apart. I took the lock side scale, put it on a table with the lock bar hanging over the edge, and tweaked it down a bit. It took a lot of pressure. This thing did not want to take a bend, but I did bend it a little more in, and it hasn't destroyed my action or anything. It still falls shut. No more lock rock. No blade play. Still centered, or as close to centered as it ever was, which is pretty dead nuts on. It's not far off if it is. Close enough for a hand-fitted knife. Yeah, so a little more lock bar tension seemed to solve that. I also stuck some Sharpie on the lock face, on the lock bar itself, while I was in there. And that seems to have gotten rid of my lock stick also. So, you know, not the end of the world. You can fix it. It's just kind of one of those, like, you'd expect it to not need so much tweaking. This thing's like owning an old motorcycle, you know? It's like a mechanic's car. You need to know how to work on things to keep this thing running optimally. Luckily, he has really good customer service, or at least that's the reputation he's built. He's very responsive to messages and stuff, and he'll tell you to send it in anytime you need anything. I contacted him once, and he sent me some screws without any hassle whatsoever, so... Very nice guy, but I mean, if you're comfortable working on knives, I mean, there's nothing on this that's so complicated. You can't probably tweak it yourself and keep it running. You know, just learn to change your own spark plugs. I mean, good and bad, right? Like anything. You take the good, you take the bad, and put it together, and what have you got? Bippity boppity boop. Facts of life. I have no idea what I'm talking about. Yeah, good and bad. It's a little crude, but it's really neat looking, and really that's what matters the most, isn't it? It's how cool your tool looks.
You're being a tool, man.
There's no tool in this tool.
It cuts fine. I carry this all the time, and I use it for all kinds of stuff. I mean, whatever you want to do with it, it's fine. It's got a good action. It's on skiffs, of course it has a good action. Big heavy blade on skiffs, you can't go wrong with that. Feels good to flip. Feels good to reverse flick. If you keep on top of the maintenance and you're a guru with a set of Torx drivers, then I mean, you're not going to have any problems with this either. And it's got a good warranty, so you know, these have got some quality control issues maybe from time to time, and a little bit of wonkiness here and there with the hand fitting work, but I mean, it's part of the charm of them too. I'm kind of glad that something like this still exists in this world of hyper precision perfection that we see from, you know, your Shiragorovs and your Hermans and yada yada. This just feels good old homegrown country boy made it in a shop kind of a feeling knife, but like really, you know, high-end materials. I mean, it's a classic. This is a classic in our hobby at this point. This is right alongside a Chris Reeve or a Hendra. It just maybe hasn't evolved quite as much as those. And, you know, again, good and bad there. It is what it is. I'm glad it exists. It may not be the knife for you, but if you ever get a chance, you know, you might handle one of these. Do I recommend it? If you get it for a good price. Don't pay $700, $600 even. If you get them for $5, Yeah, it's worth $400 or $500. Yeah, I'd pay $400 or $500 for it, and that's what I did pay for it. I wouldn't have paid $7, which is the sticker on this. So don't pay a crazy amount of money for this, but it's recommendable at $400 or $500, I think, with the understanding that you're getting kind of a niche product. One guy, remember, one guy. That's part of why it's expensive right there. Just go in knowing what you're going to get, and I think you'll be happy enough. All right, guys, that's all I got to talk about today. Thank you for watching. I'm going to go play with this. That's a lot of fun. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you subscribe and hit like, help me out, and I'll see you on the next one.